La 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 la. Welcome to the Spring 2018 Digital Learning Community Question and Answer Session streaming live now on YouTube. Today, we will share information with you on behalf of a broad array of district teams who will provide school site support to digital learning schools. My name is Marielle Milano. I'm the Director for Digital Curriculum and Instructional Design, and I'll be presenting and moderating this session. So if you're worried that you may not be in the right place, don't be. This session is for any parent, student, or community member who has an interest in digital learning next year at any of the schools on this chart. All of the schools on this chart are part of the LaunchED digital learning program. OCPS is committed to providing you just what you need, just in time. This session is the first of 3 sessions designed to help families transition to digital learning. If you haven't been able to attend any of the Parent Academy sessions on digital learning, which focused on the why, a recording of that session will be posted to your school's social media site, such as Facebook or Twitter. Today's session focuses on what will change with digital learning. After today's session, you'll be able to understand what digital learning is and be able to identify the changes it will bring to your family. Okay, let's get started. We're going to discuss what digital learning is, what the goals are for digital learning, what changes you can expect as a parent, and what you can do to help prepare your family. The state of Florida defines digital learning as high quality content in a digital format and online courses, as well as personalized digital learning, a way for students to show what they know, high quality content and instructional materials in a digital format, online and in paper, as well as high quality digital instruction provided by in person teachers, the infrastructure we need to put in place in our schools to support digital learning, the online administration of formative and summative assessment, and of course, the digital tools that students will use to create, collaborate, and communicate. The district has identified 5 goals for digital learning, which include that all students are digital learners with access to the digital tools they need and resources that will help them achieve the Florida standards and close achievement gaps. That all of our staff are prepared to deliver the next generation of instruction and assessment using integrated technology and digital tools, and that all of our staff and students demonstrate digital literacy in a secure learning and working environment, as well as making sure that all of our schools are ready for the next generation of curriculum, instructional technology, and assessment, and most of all, that everybody like you, all of our community members, have the knowledge and tools necessary to support student achievement in a digital world. These goals are going to require a change in the way the district does business in many areas. And as a result, you as a family can expect to see changes to your students' classroom environment, the classroom curriculum, classroom instruction, and the homeschool connection. The classroom environment is going to be the first thing to change dramatically from its current state as we launch students into future-ready learning. You're going to see changes to the class instructional model, classroom technology, the way the room is organized, how it's managed, and even the procedures. First, let's talk about the changes to the instructional model. You might be wondering when students are going to use technology in class. And the short answer is in most everything they do. Students will use technology to support learning daily in whole group, small group, and individual instruction. But remember, blended learning means it's facilitated by an in-person teacher. It's not virtual. It's blended learning because it involves a blend of face to face instruction enhanced by the use of technology in a traditional school building. Now, I don't want you to worry that students are never going to use paper again. But today, many of our classrooms use an overabundance of paper in instruction. The blended model moves classrooms from paper full to paper purposed. Most students will continue to use paper instructional materials occasionally, but only when that functionality is not available in an electronic or digital format, or when it's not developmentally appropriate for a student to do so. In order to enable blended instruction, the district has funded some major changes to classroom technology. Let's take a look. Right now, ITS and facilities are in the process of enhancing classrooms students are going to learn in. And some of the changes that you can expect to see next year is that all of our remaining overhead projectors will be replaced by document cameras that can project any document onto the whiteboard for viewing. That our traditional whiteboards that you write on with dry erase markers are going to be replaced by interactive flat panels, which display lesson content from the teacher and that students can write on with interactive pens or even their finger. And the most dramatic change is that the shared desktops that we've been using for years will be gone, and all of our students will be provided a laptop device from which their instructional materials and textbooks will be provided. Having interactive technology in all areas of the classroom will also allow students to move out of traditional rows and into collaborative and interactive small groups where they're going to get just what they need just in time. As a parent, it's important to remember that when students are moving around the classroom so much, they'll need to have a fully charged device to take advantage of all the opportunities of the day. Students should plan to charge their devices overnight, as there are limited outlets available at schools for emergency use with their student charger. When you visit a classroom beginning next year, you'll also notice some changes to the procedures. For example, when you enter most classrooms now, you'll notice that there's work or assignments on the board ready for students to view. But in the future, students will find that same work in Canvas, our new learning management system. The benefit to this is that students can engage in things like online polls and collaborative discussions with their teachers that give them a better sense of where their students are and how they should begin their lesson. Now, nearly all of you have seen a teacher up walking around the room to make sure that students are doing what they need to do. That won't change, but you'll also see teachers using classroom management software on their computers in tablet mode to make sure that students are supervised online as well. Let's take a brief question break. If you have any questions, please go ahead and type them in the chat. I'll try to answer your questions in real time. So I see a question has come in about how teachers are going to monitor online activities. That's a great one. Teachers are going to use a software program called School, which will allow teachers to see what students are doing in real time on their devices. This will also allow them to do things such as freeze the screen, shut down the computer, or even take over the student's computer if necessary. In addition to that, all of our devices are fully monitored through a web service to prevent exposure to inappropriate content. I also see a question from Ms. Claiming coming in about what devices students are going to be getting. Our district uses a variety of devices, but they all are the same platform and feature set. All of our devices are Windows 10, convertible, and touchscreen. They're enabled with a web camera, speakers, and a convertible keyboard. The brand for those devices ranges from HP to Lenovo and Dell. The devices that students are provided are within a certain time frame of age, but are not necessarily brand new. For example, at a cohort 5 school like your school, students will be provided a brand new device at the start of the year. But as students need their devices repaired and are switched out, they may be provided with a pre-used device at a different point later in the year. Another good question has come in from the Aguirre family asking about what will happen if students don't have a charging or Wi-Fi provisioning at home. I'm going to hold the Wi-Fi question for just a moment because we're going to get to that a little later in the presentation. But if there is a situation where a family doesn't have power in the home, then provisions can be made for the student to charge the device overnight at the school, but you will need to contact your school administration. And then we have time for the last two questions, and then we'll have the second question break in just a little bit. The Clayman family is concerned about eye fatigue. So it really depends on the course that a student will be taking. So, for example, it's likely that a student would use their device much more often in an English language arts or a math class, but in physical education or art or music, they'll use their device far less. We anticipate that students will use their device about half of the time in each class period for core subject areas and less for our elective classes. With that said, our teachers and students are encouraged to take frequent breaks, and it should never be where students are using the device for, let's say, 45 uninterrupted minutes. That would not be a best practice in our program. Okay? We're going to go ahead and continue, and then we'll have a chance to stop for even more questions in just a few moments. There's going to be additional changes that you as a family can expect to the curriculum. For example, there'll be changes to the instructional materials format, and you're going to have to think about the way we talk about literacy just a little bit different. When it comes to instructional materials, this is going to be the most obvious change you see right away. Our students will not be required to carry textbooks home, but will instead have access to an electronic or digital copy of their textbook that they can access online anytime, anywhere from our district's LaunchPad. This will be for all of our centrally adopted materials in English language arts, mathematics, science, social studies, and reading. Reading online textbooks is one of the many new skills students will learn. In the past, students learned to be literate in traditional subject areas such as reading, mathematics, science, and social studies in school, but our future-ready students must also be literate in what we call digital literacy. But don't worry, this isn't a new class students are going to have to take, but rather skills they pick up on with their existing classes, such as how to be responsible online, how to use digital tools, and how to access all of the information that they need. Let's stop here for the last two questions that I see on the screen. One of the questions is how you as a parent can monitor web activities at home. The district doesn't provide specific software for parents to monitor web activities at home, but we do encourage you to use safe web practices in the home at all times, such as having students use the computer in a central location, like a family room, living room, or kitchen. supervising your student while they're on the computer, and it certainly doesn't prohibit you from monitoring the activity on your network through whatever network monitoring software you're already using at home. I see a question from the Abraham family about what happens if the computer has a technical problem and how a student gets repairs. So, if a student has a technical problem at night, the student can put in a tech request ticket. And I'll go ahead and put that web address in the chat box for you. There is a ticketing system for students, and it is at studenttechrequest.ocps.net. And what that's going to do is it will send a ticket to our technology support representative at the student's school, who can then assist the student with the problem the following day. In addition to that, there are online self-help videos, and students can also visit the Media Center for assistance from the technology support representative during a designated class period or before school, after school, or during lunch. So now let's look at what will change in instruction. There's going to be changes to the way students utilize the internet in school and at home, the way they will interact with tools within the classroom, how their work products will look, and also how we do classroom assessment. Students are going to start using online applications on the first day of school as part of their learning experience. Things like Gmail, Calendar, Google Drive, and the Google Suite for Education will be the tools that students use to collaborate and complete their assignments. They're also going to begin to use Canvas and other OCPS hosted systems that provide educational content. Every classroom and instructional space, including media centers and even cafeterias, have been updated to include wireless access in all areas of the school. Internet filtering and security are set in compliance with the Children's Internet Protection Act. Students are prevented from accessing applications and websites that are not on the approved list, and all internet activity is logged based on your student's user ID. So in essence, we can tell you exactly what your student has accessed at any time. One of my favorite changes, however, is going to be to the supplies that students need for school. Students will have access to many new tools, and it will be important for parents to understand how that access will change what they see every day. Many of the materials we grew up with in school, notebook paper, poster board, pencils, and markers, will still be in use, but they're going to have a digital alternative that will be located in the cloud. For example, students can take digital notes in Google Docs or create an engaging presentation on Google Slides instead of a poster, without ever using the traditional tools listed here. The best part about this as a parent is that you won't have to worry about buying as many school supplies, and you won't have to worry about your student losing their work because it's accessible from any device, even your home computer, a phone, a tablet, or the district's computer, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Great digital tools give students the opportunity to create, well, great digital projects. Our hope is that students will be completing far fewer worksheets and showing us what they know in more dynamic ways by creating products such as digital ebooks, infographics, e-newsletters, and even their own websites. The possibilities with digital learning are truly endless. So if the classroom is going to be so different, will testing change too? The short answer is yes. Over the past few years, the state has begun to transition to online assessments, as you may have seen through tests like the FSA. This will continue. However, at the classroom level, this may also extend to include things like multiple choice chapter tests and quizzes. The benefit to the benefit of doing this to you as a parent is that you can get real-time access to your students' progress and be able to see feedback directly from the teacher. What questions do you have about this section? Go ahead and type them in the chat box, and we'll get to them as quickly as we can. I don't see any questions, so I'm going to go ahead and keep moving. But if you do have questions, feel free to type them in at any time. Some of the biggest changes for parents are going to occur in terms of how you interact with the school from home. Let's talk about how you're going to be able to review student notes and work, review your student's planner, what will change with parent and teacher communication, and how you're going to use the internet at home, as well as the parent responsibility for the device. The most immediate change you're going to see on the first day of school, and that is that your student will not be issued a paper planner this year. Instead, they're going to have a calendar inside of the Canvas Learning Management System, which as a parent, you will have full access to anywhere you go. This is great news because if you're a parent, you know that oftentimes students either don't complete information in their planner or even lose their planner, which can be very challenging. The Canvas Planner has the opportunity for teachers to add information for students directly. So when a teacher posts an assignment, it will automatically be added to the student's planner. The same thing goes for things like tests, field trips, etc. In addition to that, your student and you have the opportunity to add personal items on your calendar. All of these can be accessed via the student's computer, your family's cell phone or desktop, or any other mobile device that you have. You're also going to notice some changes to how school supplies and student work will look next year. You should be able to save time and money by purchasing fewer school supplies, like binders, folders, and notebooks, because students will turn in and complete all of their work in Google Drive and submit it inside of Canvas. Canvas is the same learning management system that colleges such as Valencia and even UCF use. In terms of parent and teacher communication, it'll be easier than ever for you to talk to your students' teachers through our district's learning management system, Canvas. You can access the Canvas Parent app on any iOS, Android, or Windows mobile phone or tablet, and it allows for parents to engage more fully in their child's education. Parents can review upcoming or past assignments, check on their students' grades, and receive course announcements, in addition to sending their teachers messages. The app settings allow for parents to set alerts for specific assignments and grade activities. So, for example, if you want to know every time your student scores below a 90%, it will send you an alert when that happens. Are you one of those parents that texts more than you talk? That's the way I am. If that's you, you're in luck. Canvas can also allow you to receive notifications in various methods, including things like text message, email, and even Twitter. If your student doesn't have reliable internet access at home to complete homework assignments, don't worry. Internet access is not required for homework. If, however, a student needs internet access, hotspots with 2 gigs of data monthly are provided at no cost to qualifying students through the T-Mobile EmpowerEd program. In addition, we provide a map of free community Wi-Fi on our website, digital.ocps.net. Anytime the internet is accessed, even outside of school, at Starbucks, at McDonald's, on an airplane, all of the internet traffic is pushed back onto our network. So students are supervised and filtered 24 hours a day. A laptop will be assigned to each of your students at the beginning of the school year. This device is the property of Orange County Public Schools, even when the student takes the device home at night. Because electronic equipment like laptops are delicate and costly to repair and replace, OCPS asks for families to encourage the student and other household members to make sure they take good care of the device. You may want to consider establishing guidelines for how the device will be used at home, as well as where you're going to store the device in the evening. For example, if you have young children at home, it may be wise to store the device in a high location, like on top of the refrigerator. Together, you can acclimate to this new adventure of digital literacy in a safe manner. In the event that the laptop is damaged or lost, it is the responsibility of the parent or the student to report the incident to the school in a timely manner. For damages, please notify your classroom teacher or find the dean first thing in the morning at your school. If your device is lost or stolen, immediately contact the tech hotline. The number is on your screen, 407-317-3290. In addition, that same number is engraved on top of the lid of every device. OCPS works closely with local police agencies to recover any devices that OCPS deems stolen. We ask for parents to coordinate with us with the police to make sure that the school can get a copy of the police report. If a student damages a device, there is a fine for damage. For example, this is no different than how we would have charged a fine if a textbook or library book or even musical instrument was damaged in the past. The fines are outlined annually in the Family Technology Handbook that will be sent home on your campus. I imagine you have some questions now. Are your questions on this section? Now's your chance to make sure you have all your questions answered. The Lopez family is asking if the student is responsible to pay a fine if it is lost. Yes. If a student is unable to locate their device, that is a sign to us that they were not responsible in the care and handling of that device. A lost device is $50 for the first offense, $100 for the second offense, and for the third offense can be up to the cost of the device. The RV family is asking if you can purchase insurance for the laptops. The fine fees of $50, $100, and then potentially up to the repair and cost of the device are already set up like an insurance deductible. Our district is self-insured for all devices. Are there any other questions? Okay, well, don't be afraid to stop me if there are. I see one just came in from the Aguirre family. In a case where the student is evaluated by the school counselor and proven to learn or understand better or test on paper, will accommodations be made? Hmm. It sounds like you're asking about a specific evaluation in the case of exceptional student education. In exceptional student education, a student has an individual education plan that outlines specific accommodations and possibly modifications that the school must legally make for students. If that is the case and it is documented in the individual education plan, then the school will adhere to the individual education plan no matter what. But it would need to be documented in something like an individual education plan or a Section 504 plan. The claimant family is asking how long students will have to acclimate to the new system. For example, a grace period for having to log assignments into Canvas, etc. So at the beginning of the school year, the expectation is that our teachers will help students to acclimate to Canvas. For example, on the first week of school, students will take a digital citizenship course in Canvas altogether. They'll take the OCPS student code of conduct class together, and then their teachers will gradually show them how to use Canvas. It is expected, though, that students will turn in an assignment probably by the end of the first week in Canvas altogether. And again, that would be done, whole group where the teacher can guide them through that. By the end of the first marking period, we expect that schools have completed the transition to Canvas with at least one assignment per week being given in Canvas. But our students will likely be using their laptops every day, whether it's just to access Google Drive or to open a textbook or to search a website. So it will depend on the student and the class, but you should expect that at least some work will happen in Canvas the first week, and that transition will happen gradually over the first marking period. Okay, so what can you do to help prepare your family over the summer? There's actually a few things that you can do. The first is you're going to want to make plans to attend the digital open house that's going to happen at your student's school. Those open houses will occur between July 23rd and the end of the first week in August. And at those open houses, you're going to be able to get hands-on training on how to check your student's online planner, their binder, their files, and their grades, as well as how to communicate with your students' teachers, how to help your student with online homework, how to pay a fine, and for how to give permission for things like using the internet, having your student's picture taken, etc. You're going to receive an invitation to your school's open house via Facebook, email, and potentially even in post mail in mid to late July. In the meantime, we recommend having a good old fashioned family meeting. During that family meeting, we recommend setting limits and consequences at home for things like downloading media, visiting video sites that you may not approve of in the home, how you feel about personal social media, gaming, video, voice, texting, and chatting, sharing private information online, and screen time. It's also important that you discuss how you expect students to care for and be responsible for the device at home. The remaining time together, I'd like to spend making sure we answer any of the questions I haven't had a chance to present about today. So I'm going to go through the chat box and make sure I have a chance to answer any of your questions before I have you sign off. If there's any content at all that I haven't covered and you're worried about, now is the best time for you to ask. In the chat box now, there is a concern about practicing writing and spelling since autocorrect is set up in Microsoft Office. And then there's also a question about being taught or encouraged to write cursive. The standards for writing cursive actually are in the elementary school grade level. And so the actual practice of learning cursive occurs at the elementary grade band versus the middle school grade band. There is certainly no rule that students can't write in cursive at the middle school level, but it is not taught explicitly beyond the elementary school grade band. In terms of practicing writing, students are encouraged to plan writing on paper or online, and there is an autocorrect function that allows for students to see a word that is misspelled because it's highlighted and underlined in Google Drive and in Microsoft Word, but it does not automatically correct that word for students. The word will need to have the student right click on it, and then they'll need to actually select the correct spelling of that word from a list if it's available. Ms. Clayman, did I answer your question earlier? I just wanted to make sure you got the answer to your question. Perfect. Are there any other folks that have questions? Perhaps the Aguirre family or the Lopez family? Yes, we do have resources that you can use for a family meeting. That's a great question. There's a wonderful toolkit for families on common sense media for middle schoolers or really teenagers in general. And then we can also provide you with a checklist of things, if you will, that you'll want to talk about in your family meeting. But in general, for middle schoolers, and I'll be honest in saying that I also have a sixth grader. So I understand the concerns that you're facing personally as well. The best offense is always a good defense, making sure that there's a clear expectation for when students are supposed to turn the device off at night, that it's charged in a central location and not in a bedroom, so that that way you can ensure that the student is, unplugged, if you will, and making sure that you know what your student is doing online, just like you would with a family computer. Using a device behind closed doors is never a good practice. Using it out in the open where your parents can be supervising you is our best practice all of the time. Ms. Clayman has a question about the use of interactive notebooks, and her concern is the ability to adequately replicate that tool. And an interactive notebook is something where students can take notes, but also add artifacts like copy and paste a worksheet or a picture inside of it. So there are tools, for example, a website called Book Creator that allows for fully interactive notebooks, or some schools use things like Google Sites to replicate a personal interactive notebook. But with that said, there is no rule that says a school can't utilize interactive notebooks if that's the best practice for them. So, for example, I used to be a science teacher and I used interactive notebooks in my classroom. At the start of the school year, it might be appropriate to continue to use traditional interactive notebooks, but supplement the learning happening in the classroom with virtual labs as well as face to face labs, accessing videos about science, participating in simulations, or dragging and dropping dissections, but still using a paper interactive notebook. Remember, the goal is blended curriculum, not virtual curriculum. What other questions might you have? No problem. It's my pleasure. We'll have another one of the virtual Q&A sessions tonight at 5:15 p.m. and that will be from 5:15 p.m. to 6 p.m. And then tomorrow we'll have another virtual Q&A session at 12 noon as well as 5:15 p.m. And on Thursday we'll have another Q&A session from 12 p.m. to 5:15 p.m. Please be sure to tell a friend to attend so that they can have their questions answered and put their mind at ease about launching digital learning at their school next year as well. I'm happy to stay as long as you'd like for me to answer questions, but for those who have had their questions answered, I'd like to thank you for joining me on what I'm sure is a very short lunch break from your personal life, and have a great day. Yes, the presentation will be the same at all 6 sessions, but it's an opportunity for parents who are not able to join at a particular day and time to join us for a different day and time. Absolutely. So the presentation, Ms. Schmidt, As soon as I stop broadcasting, you're going to be able to replay the video right from this screen. And that's the great part about doing it via YouTube Live is you'll be able to not only see the recording, but also the full chat history as well. But if there's a specific question that I can answer for you, I'm happy to do so at this time. My pleasure. Okay, everybody, I'm going to stop my broadcast. If you need anything specific answered, I'm going to go ahead and put my email address in the chat box. I'm happy to chat with you anytime about any concerns you have about the transformation. I really appreciate all of your support and I hope you have a great day.